Hello, Merry Christmas everyone, it's Busy Boy here. Today I will show you how to do 20 million flippin' reflect damage, as well as how to taunt plus reflect bosses in M+, and most importantly, some tips for every reflect and how you can pull this off in your own group. Alright, so let's start in Turn the Tides. On the Sentinel, you can of course reflect the Crushing Depths. It is a cast that leaves a 30-second dot if you reflect it. It's pure RNG, but what you can do is tell your group to meld, feign death, invis. Right here you can see going on the Druid, he melds, the DH, he melds, and then it goes on me. It leaves a 30-second dot, and if you let it fully tick out, it does about 8 million damage here on this 29. Then this boss has a kick that you never reflect because you hold it for the Focus Lightning, which is the Chain Lightning mechanic. You can either be targeted by it or be hit by the splash damage from someone else. The targeted mechanic is for about 1 mil, the splash damage for about 500k. So if you reflect it, it works the same way. So playing this mechanic properly is actually a DPS gain. Then here on the third boss, Flame Shock is reflectable, does about 2.5 million damage per. He casts it after about 5 seconds, so press spell reflect 3 seconds after pulling the boss. And then after that you're gonna look at the timer of the weak aura, I'll link it in the video description. It tells you when he's gonna cast it, so you're gonna gamble the reflect here. A small tip here is you can kind of force your luck if you tell your group to pre-line of sight during his cast of Earth Fury, the swirlies, because he will always cast it right after that mechanic. Now, I'm actually not 100% sure if it actually works, but we had some decent success trying this out. So go try it out for yourself and tell me if it works. And finally, in P2, whenever you have Reflect up, just press it and you will always reflect a small ability called Soul Rot, like 500k damage. And now it's time for the real juice of this key. The Foul Bolt Reflect on the last boss. It's very similar to the second boss in Noxious, if you guys remember. I made a video about it in season 1. How the reflect works is he will cast a reflectable bolt if the tank is not in melee range. So you're gonna have to walk out and taunt, and then you can reflect it.
Fucking boom!
The problem is though, this one is way harder than the one in Noxious because the cast time is 0.3 seconds. So the tank has 0.3 seconds to taunt back or you die. So this sounds geek as catch, but don't worry. Uncle Biz has some strategies to do it safely. So what I do with Mujim, my tank, we are super clean on this because I give him a point of reference on when I'm gonna taunt. And it's always going to be after we drop the puddles right here. So I drop the puddles, I taunt, and he knows I'm gonna taunt, so he's ready for it. So the correct order would be, you place the puddles, you walk out, you press reflect, then taunt, and then the tank taunts back instantly at the start of the cast. And that's it. Now, if you still don't trust your tank, you can either send him this video, or if you play arms, you can safely do it with parry. What you then have to do is do the reflect as usual, but you gotta charge back with parry up before the second cast, so within those 0.3 seconds. If you do that, then the tank has 8 seconds to taunt back instead of 0.3, which is more reasonable. And lastly, it's completely free with Shadow Melt if you're a Night Elf, of course. Just melt during the second cast. And if you do it well, like look right here, on this 25, it was almost my top damage. Spell reflect. Alright, let's move on to Atal Dazar. There was a clip of mine on WoW highlights, this one. 7.8 million reflect damage. And in this clip, I reflect Transfusion for 8 million damage. So Biz, how did you do this? Well, I don't fucking know. Why do you ask me? All I can tell you is that it was not on the boss, it was on the Priestess, the trash mob. But I haven't been able to replicate it. I think it was because I took the blood and then pressed reflect and he just one-shot himself. But it's kind of a pointless reflect because the priest kind of kills himself anyway, so... You can deflect the same ability though on the boss, but it's also pointless. All it gives you is like 1 extra second to pick up your blood. That's it. Then you can do the soul burn reflect on the Colossus. And of course Wracking Pain on the last boss. This one's kind of big. You can tell your team to meld it just like you did on the Crushing Depths. And you can also meld it yourself if your reflect is not ready yet. As you can see, I don't have my reflect yet. The boss is low and we're running out of time. So I agreed meld the reflective notes on me. He actually recasts on me and we ended up timing the key with like a couple seconds left. Now we'll do a couple quick ones before we get back into the juicy taunt boss reflects. In my reflect videos I never cover reflects that are kickable, so in Blackrook Hold it's only the Soul Blade. And then we move on to Murason's Rise. In Rise you can taunt reflect the ad here on the last boss. You taunt during a cast, wait for him to follow up the next cast, that one you reflect, and the tank can taunt back during the second cast. In Galakron's Fall, you can reflect the Tainted Sands from the moment. You would watch your spell CDs on nameplate weak aura to kind of predict when he throws it out. You have to get lucky. What I like to do though, on Fortified we usually see one. Then I like to be the one who breaks it with reflect up, so I can instantly reflect him. Then I have to be sure that everyone else is kind of out of range though, so I can guarantee the cast on me. And the second reflect in Fall is the Noxious Injection. Random cast on the third boss. Moving on to Darkheart Thicket. In this dungeon you need the weak aura a lot, so the first reflect would be here on the spider. You have to pre-press it, looking at the weak aura timer. Then you can reflect it for damage. The circle will go back to the mob and it will still explode over your whole group. So if you reflect it, you have to be sure that your group moves out or they die. Then on this horse, you can reflect the Poison Spear. She throws out physical spears all the time, but once every like 20 seconds I believe, she throws out a Poison Spear, which is reflectable. It's a very fast cast though, so you have to look at your weak aura again so you're ready for it for whenever she casts it. And if the dot fully ticks out, it actually hits quite hard. Next up we have a reflect that got nerfed. This one used to hit 8 million, but I think they nerfed it down to like 1 million. I got a pre-nerf clip though from my boy Yumaraki. I tried to do it as well in this pack, but I fucked it up, so I'm happy Yumaraki is a gold gamer. We just pre-taunt the bat to try and reflect the dot. Then last boss we have 2 reflects actually, but you will always reflect the Nightmare Bolt 99% of the time. It does mad damage. The second reflect though is a bit less known. It's the feed on the weak. You can deflect it, so you have to get lucky. You have to precast it, deflect it. But like I said, on this fight you're probably just gonna reflect the bolt only. Then we go to Everbloom, and we have some juice in this key. The third boss casts Fireball, Frostbolt and Arcane Blast. They all hit equally as hard, so it doesn't matter what you reflect. There's no timer for her casts, so you're gonna have to predict when she's gonna cast it and pre-taunt. Now I figured out the exact timing when she's gonna cast it. So you know how the boss works, right? She phases between Frostfire, Arcane phases. You're gonna look at that timer. When that timer is at 6 seconds or less remaining, that's when she's gonna cast. So create a little bit of distance at let's say 7 seconds, taunt, and you should get it. Well, here on the clip I pop parry for no reason, because I'm a bitch sometimes. But you can see the timer, and if you know the timer, you don't need parry. And then you just repeat this every single phase when you have reflect up. And finally, Waycrest Manor. Quite a lot of reflects here. First one is the Maggot Spit. If they're synced or if you get lucky, you can reflect multiple at once. On the Peasant, you can reflect the Withering Glob. Here I do it with a Maggot cast at the same time, got lucky. Then, on the Runeweaver, he has 2 casts that are reflectable. The Runic Mark, right here, and also the Etch, the channel. You will usually hold it for the Etch, because that mechanic is kind of dangerous. But here's the Runic Mark. If you want to reflect it, look at your spell cities on Nameplate's weak aura once again. And here's a clip of the Etch. If your group has the spell cities on Nameplate weak aura, they can predict when he's going to cast it, and they can pre-line of sight to try and bait it on you so you can reflect it. And then on Alma, the mini boss downstairs, he has 2 reflects. One of them is the Dread Mark, which is a deflect, kind of useless. But there's also the Decaying Touch, and this one's kind of interesting. It's a taunt reflect. You're gonna taunt again when a weak card tells you that she's about to cast it. And it does a fair bit of damage, but more importantly, it makes him take 15% more damage. So that's kind of big. And now, Lord and Lady. This is the 20 million reflect from the intro. This reflect is not easy though, there's a lot to think about. First off, you're gonna need to see the timer on Bigwigs. If you watched all my previous reflect videos, you know how to do this by now, so I'm not gonna explain it, just follow the steps on the screen right now. Now that you can see the timer, you can pre-taunt before he casts it, but there are like 5 different things that can go wrong here. You can easily live a melee hit unless he crits you. If he crits you, you die. It seems to be almost impossible to avoid his melee hits because he melees through the cast sometimes. So on a high enough key, you're gonna have to cycle defenses on yourself. Just for the chance that you get crit. If you're feeling confident though, or if the key is a bit lower, you can just reflect every time on just these stands. Secondly, the lady downstairs is spam casting an ability called Wracking Chord, which is also reflectable. And that's bad, because that might consume your reflect right before you try to land the reflect on the Lord. That's why you always have to press reflect at the last millisecond. And the last thing to look out for is the Pathogen. You never want to reflect this, because if you reflect it, it goes to the boss and it will hit everyone. That's why I queued to this 19 just to show you guys to not do this. And finally the kick on the last boss. Normally I don't cover kicks, but this one, it does reflect back for damage, but it will still hit your whole group. So if you want to reflect that, that's completely up to you. And that's it. Please check out my Twitch, I'm live right now. And don't forget to comment on this video how bad my UI is. And thank you for watching. Hope to see you guys next season. Love you.